Never give up, for that is just the time and place when the tide will turn. Harriet Beecher Stowe. A couple who could have given up but didn't give up because of their love, their compassion for each other, and their incredible strength are here today on Looking to Make a Difference with Gail. Welcome, Cheryl and
Gail.
Rob Cuccio.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I'm just so excited to have you on the show. And I have to say, you are both proud parents of two beautiful daughters.
Yes.
And you are authors. You are co-author with Morgan St. James. Let me hold this up for you. Incest, Murder, and a Miracle. The true story behind the Cheryl Pearson murder, for the headlines, and what I loved most of all, the power of love. You are not going to tear up that quickly. First of all, again, we want to thank you for coming on. I know this is difficult, and I get that. But I know that you're going to be helping so many people, and that's what this is all about. I loved the inscription that you sent to me. Thank you for letting us tell you the true story. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get the facts out there.
Yeah.
Your book is so interesting because it's told from 2 points of view. It's Cheryl, and then you hear from Rob. In addition to that, it's broken down into 2 parts. The first part, the incest and murder, and the second part, a miracle. I also have to mention Miss Phillips' cover. I love that.
Isn't it great? She did an awesome job.
It's wonderful. This cover shows the two of you walking out of a tunnel, not only into sunlight, but holding hands and knowing that there
walking
is...
out of the darkness.
Out of the darkness.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I know the two of you have been disappointed in the past with TV, movies, books, and so I am honored that you are coming on today. And if at any time it does get to be too much, we will stop. More important that everybody feel comfortable. Many viewers and many readers are wondering why the two of you have waited till this point, some 30 years later, to write your book.
Honestly, Gail, it took me a long time to actually confront it head on. A lot of the emotions and scars that you still deal with every day. I pushed way down deep in there, and I had 2 kids to raise, and that was what I concentrated on, and I needed to make sure that before I told our story, and told our story with a happy ending, that we raised our kids properly and they were good kids, and Rob and I, did the right thing, and I just wasn't ready all those years to actually confront what I had pushed down so deep inside. And then we had gotten a second chance. It was a goal I always wanted to. I always wanted to tell the true, accurate story, because the media back in the 80s did not do that. They were horrible.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. You brought it up at this point, so let's mention that. The media, how did they affect you? And then the trial.
Well, they affected me because, the whole time before the murder actually happened, my father would tell me that nobody, would believe me, and nobody would listen. And so when it actually came out and the media did know, they blasted the headlines on the page. I mean, when you are being sexually abused, or maybe any kind of abuse, I was basically all of them, emotionally, verbally, physically. You're very shameful of that. You carry a lot of shame, and you blame yourself, and there's a lot of stigma that comes with that, and you're taught to keep a secret, and that's how the abuser is able to get away with it.
Control.
Right, because they teach you how to you need to keep that secret in order to survive. And so once that secret was out, the media would just have these headlines of, Cheryl Pearson had sex with her father 3 times, something that was so sacred and so shameful, and you felt so dirty here it is on the front page for everybody to know in your
And
business.
you're 16 years old. This has been
Exactly.
going on, pardon me, for 5 years. The first word of your title is incest. Child sex abuse impacts more Americans in 1 year than gun violence,
Exactly.
AIDS, and cancer.
Yes.
It's the taboo that we don't talk about. It's the hidden word, and we really don't know how many children are affected by this because many are afraid
And don't report it.
and don't report it.
Exactly.
And many times those who do are so afraid. I'm going to get into that for the consequences. Before we talk about that fateful day in 1986 at 293 Magnolia Drive, let's go back a few years before that. And we're not leaving you out just yet, but you are not in the picture just yet. So I want to share this first part with you, Cheryl. You know, I want to say somewhat uneventful, but having a mom who is very ill, who's going through kidney dialysis, and you're a child yourself, 2-year-old sister, and an older brother, Jimmy. Joanna's the baby. This had to impact you. Just the illness alone affects the whole family.
Well, you know, my mother was a stay-home at mom, and so she was a very big part of our lives. You know, she was there in the morning to put us on the bus, and she was there when we got home. And I was always mommy's girl. And my father basically raised my brother in sports and treated him to be like a tough guy, and my mom, I was like the little girl. And then my sister was born, and I wasn't mommy's little girl anymore. And
You're the middle child now.
I suffered from the middle child syndrome big time. And I felt like I had no place in the home. My father paid attention to my brother, my mother paid attention to my sister, and I was just trying to fit in. And then boom, Joanne at her second birthday party, my mother, her whole body just swelled up and was extremely ill, and she was very big with her kids and birthdays, and she said I would go to the hospital the next day, which was the day after my sister's birthday, when she turned 2. And when she went to the hospital, she never came back.
Cheryl, let's talk about your dad. He had 2 different sides to him. I mean, I know we say we all have different personalities, but he was successful as an electrician. He had some friends. In fact, my understanding is that he told you he was friends with the principal of the school, had gone to school with him. But there was another side to him, a side that perhaps some people didn't know about. That was that controlling, mean side.
Well, a lot of people knew that as well, Gail.
They did know it.
They did know that. I don't know if he had a lot of friends, but he had a lot of people that feared him. So I don't know what kind of, I mean, you do obviously have some friends, but a lot of people were, even his friends were fearful of him, yes.
I know that the dinner table, horrific. You have to eat food counterclockwise, meat, potato, right? Vegetable.
Yep.
No drinking anything no talking.
No talking.
If you look at the TV, you got a hit on the head.
No, you had to look directly at your plate. No conversation, no eye contact, no talking.
Where did all this come from, these rules? Was it just something that got worse as your mother's illness progressed? Was it always there?
No, it was always there from
was
when we were
always
little.
there.
Yeah, that was just something that was
Later
always...
on, it was putting cameras in different rooms.
The only thing that changed after my mother got sick, sexual abuse. All the other abuse was there from the time we were little, but we had our mother to protect us.
But you had your mother protect you. Yeah, and I want to also mention that sometimes, and this always happens on the news, you will hear people say, I don't know what happened. They seem like such a good family. And you know what? People, am I right?
Yes.
People do not know until they live in the situation.
Nobody knows behind closed doors.
Nobody knows it.
Exactly.
People can put on all this front. And I remember the story because I was a teacher at a school not far from where you had lived. And the story had gone all over. Your grandparents took care of your sister. Your 2-year-old sister. They would come into the house, very kind grandparents. You were very close to.
Actually, they lived across the street. We actually moved, me and my sister stayed at their house. But they were older, and so I had to help a lot with my sister, and I had to help a lot with the cooking and the cleaning with them, so.
And you mentioned that the abuse escalated. You became a surrogate wife. And I think what a lot of people weren't aware of is that you also, as you got older, there were two sides to you, too. There was the child who went to school who was the popular, pretty cheerleader. There was the young girl who loved wearing that cheerleading jacket, who tried very hard to get good grades, who teachers were concerned about because you were losing a lot of weight. And we'll talk about one of the reasons why it wasn't just from the stress.
Right.
And then there was this child at home whose father was sexually abusing you sometimes, maybe 3 times a day, who was cruel to you, who threatened you and threatened to go after your younger sister. This went on for 5 years. And I mention all of this not to bring up just painful past, but I think people have to know what you went through. At 16 years old, who do you turn to? Who do you go to? If you do tell somebody at school, well, you tell us.
Well, who do I trust?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the person that I'm supposed to be trusting is the person that's abusing me.
Right.
So that trust went right out the window. So if you can't trust the person that is your parent, how are you supposed to then go to somebody else that isn't, he told me the whole time that, he was doing what he did because he loved me.
Mm.
And so how do you now, when other people tell you they love you or, just want you to be close to them, or you don't trust anybody,
you can't
because
trust anybody.
you know
heard
what?
it.
They could do the same thing that he did if I get close to them or tell them. And the second thing is if I did tell, where was I going? It was my word against his.
Right.
He had brainwashed me that nobody would believe me. I believed him because every time he said something, it did come true.
And he hit you?
And I was fearful. I mean, I was afraid. I was a desperate, afraid, felt alone, nobody would believe me child.
When your mom dies, you go to the wake, and somebody makes a comment and means to help you, mentioning that your mom will always watch over you. Mm-hmm. And this gets you upset. And the reason?
Well, because I felt, and I still feel this way, that I don't think she ever did know about the abuse because she was such a good mom. And I think if she knew, she wouldn't have allowed it to happen. So now
absolutely,
people are telling me, it's okay, she'll be your guardian angel, she'll watch over you. And I'm thinking she'll watch over me. She's going to see everything that he's doing. And at that point in my life, it wasn't a fight anymore when she died because I just wanted to get it over with.
Right.
So I didn't want her to think that I wasn't putting up a fight because this is what she's saying at this point, that I liked it. And I had to prove to her that I didn't want it to happen. And the only way for me proving was to do something about it.
I see you tearing up. I'm just going to mention very quickly because I don't want you to get too upset, because you do have PTSD from all of this, and that's totally understandable. You had a pet dog that you loved, and your dad hurt the dog. Dog eventually did die, and I think that frightened you as well. That was control on his part. It was to frighten you, and it was also jealousy on his part.
Because I loved the dog.
You loved the dog.
Exactly.
And then you go to school, and you meet Rob. What was your impression of Cheryl?
I thought she was the most beautiful girl in the world. I still think she's the most beautiful girl in the world. I do.
So good. I love it. Well, she is.
She is.
Good looking.
And
I
I knew from when I first met her, I knew I had to find out who she was and to befriend her. I just didn't know what I was getting into. But
you know
never
what?
Change a thing.
Never would change a thing.
Not one thing.
He was there from the start. He absolutely, and you know,
my mother sent him to me. I know she did.
That was your angel.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about that. You do believe in divine intervention? And the reason I ask, and I'm again referring back to the book, and there's so much in this book, that so much for so many different reasons has to be read by different people. But there's one particular instance where you see a shadow at one point, and you look up, and your dad, it actually stops your dad from abusing you. Do you believe that was your grandfather?
I do.
You do?
I do, only because it was a male figure, and there was a shadow
do I believe that?
going down the hallway, and my father had cameras. and he had an alarm pad in his master bedroom, and it would show where people are, and that didn't light up. So if there was somebody there, why wouldn't that light up? Why wasn't it on the camera? But yet the male figure was on that wall.
I agree, and I shared this with other people after my husband had died. I saw a black figure going across the wall. And at first it freaked me out. I went to get the glasses. I'm looking up. No one else is in the house. I'm all alone. And I went to a priest, and he explained that sometimes that can happen.
I didn't really put two and two together until after, like, my hearing.
Yeah.
And when they said that my grandfather had seen it. And I think because he didn't do something about it then, I think he was trying to do something then.
He's trying to help you and prevent it.
Yes.
I want to go over, we mentioned before a couple of reasons why people would not say what happened. And you have already mentioned you were threatened, you were hit, people wouldn't believe it. I found some other reasons I want to share as well, and please jump in at any time. No one would believe you. And after you started to date Rob, he wouldn't let you see Rob. If you told anybody, you had to protect your baby sister.
Yes.
Who is, I guess she was 8 at this time.
He was threatening that to start on her if I left the house for any reason, if I just thought about college, if I thought about
anything.
He would start on her.
And you saw something that bothered you and got to you. The other thing too is tremendous embarrassment. It's not your fault, but it's embarrassing.
Well, I thought it was my fault. I thought I thought it was my fault. I didn't stop it. Maybe I should have took a bigger beating, and I don't know. That's why it's called a dirty secret.
Dirty secret, right.
And these abusers know that you feel such shame and embarrassment that's how it's able to stay a secret. That's how it's a taboo.
Absolutely right.
Because people don't want to be embarrassed or ashamed to say it happened to them.
If you're out there and you're hearing this and this is happening to you, or you know of somebody it's happening to, let's go over some of the things that you can do to help people. Yes. I mean, there are links and there are websites. I found one. I don't know if you're conversant with it, but it's called RAIN.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think of that?
I've contacted them myself, trying to see if I could do some volunteer work.
I love that. And?
No one got back to me yet.
Okay, I want you to keep pursuing that because this is so important.
Yep.
That's for Rape, Abuse, Incest, National,
yes.
right? Networking.
Yep.
Therapy. You did go through therapy. Did you find it helped?
At first, no. I mean, everybody should try to find somebody that they like and are able to trust. But I felt like I love my therapist. I only saw the one, thank God, and I made her miserable the first.
That's okay. That's
months,
part of her job.
But I felt like she would rip everything out, bring all this stuff up, and then be like, "Time's up."
And then
I'll
you have to go away,
week.
and you're left with all of this angst.
And I'm like, "Wait, I finally got it up, and now I'll see you next week."
Yeah.
So I would get angry. I'd be like, "I'm not telling her anything."
Right.
So, but she wound up. I don't know. I invited her to our wedding, and
you had the right therapist.
I loved
her. And
you
should be interviewing.
And her name was Kathleen as well.
Okay, and that's your mom's name.
Yes.
You should be interviewing people for something like that. Don't just go with the first person that you think you have to do it.
Right.
If you're not comfortable, get out. So there are hotlines. Trusting an adult. Now, I know that there were teachers in school, and I remember being a teacher at this time. This happened to you where I cried in the car when I heard it on the radio. It's difficult because, why? Trusting the teachers at school.
You know, the principal of the school was my father's supposed friend, and if I came home one day and I was talking to some boy just randomly at the locker, I'd come home and he would know that. I don't know how he would know that, but he would know that. So I felt like everybody in that school, if the teacher went to the principal, I'd be in trouble. So, yeah.
I think joining a support group, sharing your story, talking about it, and even though you are still welling up, and understandably so, I think it does help when you do share, knowing that you're making a difference in the life of somebody out there has got to make you feel good. It's got to help.
It does, because I needed a reason. That's just the type of person I am. I needed to know a reason why this has happened to me.
It's your purpose. That's your purpose we're talking about before.
And I feel like I don't have the education, but I definitely have the experience. And I know that when I was a kid, if there was somebody that I knew went through it, they would have definitely made a big difference and impact in my life. And I feel like, when you go see a therapist, if you don't feel that they know where you're coming from and have been there, then it's not gonna make you feel better.
Help you.
But because I know how you feel, I feel like you would open up to me, and it would be a bigger impact.
Now, did writing the book, did that help you?
It did, because it was a goal that I had always wanted to do, and I felt like I accomplished something.
You got it.
So that was something I always wanted to do. And then, there's a lot of things that came up, and once they came up, they were released. So.
Absolutely. You said the most difficult part in your life was sharing with Rob. So let's go back to that for a moment. Rob, you go for dinner. First you went to the wake. Yes. Now you're invited for dinner.
Yes.
And you suspected things. But the beginning, not, right?
No. The beginning, actually, me and Cheryl's father actually got along well. Because her son, his son had left the house, and I took over a lot of those roles, and so I didn't want her mowing the lawn or helping wash the car, and so I'd go over there and I would do it for her, and we ended up having a decent relationship where I was helping Mr. Pearson put together Christmas gifts for the babies and.
For Joanne.
For Joanne.
Yeah, she had like a bike and a playhouse. She was still little. So
he was helping.
Right, but there was just something that just didn't strike me as being...
Right.
Something wasn't right. Something was off.
Something was off. I think at one time you allude in the book that you served Rob first, and your father slapped you.
Yes, at that point, right?
Yeah,
that was like the the jealousy. I would always notice again a few things. I would notice that he would always pull her on his lap in front of me and kiss her on the forehead, and my father was a strict Italian, and he had a good relationship with my sister.
And you didn't see that, not at all.
Nothing.
That just wasn't okay.
No, it really wasn't, and it was just something, again, and it just started to add up and add up and add up. And then I think it was when she got smacked for handing me a napkin first instead of him, and he said,
that was it. That went off. Yeah, the light clicked.
Yeah.
So when you confront Cheryl has, you deny it. You're horrified. This is this dirty secret.
Well, the thing was also, Gail, is that he would try to become, after we've known each other for a whole year, he would try to become affectionate with me. And when we were around people, not my father, obviously, but at the school or something, I was okay with him putting his arm around me or holding my hand. But when we were by ourselves, I would just freeze up and I just would shut off, because that's what I did to survive.
You didn't understand that at all. You were a teenager.
I mean, that's when you talked about two different people, that's what happened. I would shut off and I would go into that other person mode and just shut down and just, all right, just do whatever you got to do, but make it quick.
So here's the thing: you just want this to stop.
Yes.
You don't know how. You don't know where. Everything's closing in. You have to protect Joanne. Your brother now has left the house because he didn't get along with your dad.
My father
so you're there.
Physically abusive, mentally, emotionally to my brother as well.
And he left.
He left.
So you're now. In fact, I think your father maybe even told him to leave.
Probably. I mean,
I think so you're there alone. You're getting to a breaking point.
Well, my breaking point was, 1, I felt like my mother was watching me. 2, because she had passed, everybody stopped coming around, and he had more time alone with me, so it was happening frequently more. 3, Rob now knew about it, and I felt like I had to do something about it because I didn't want him to think that I liked it as well.
Right, of course.
And 4, I promised my mother I would protect my sister, and I was damned if I didn't, damned if I didn't. If I went out with Rob to talk about how to solve the problem, I'd come home and my father would have my sister in his bed with him watching TV on his bare naked chest. And that's how it started with me. If I didn't go out, then I didn't get to talk to Rob and figure out how to fix it. So
You're caught. You were at this point where
desperate.
You're desperate.
I didn't trust anybody, and I don't even know what made me admit to Rob to do it. I was at my breaking point, maybe. I don't know.
That's probably, indeed what did happen. Now, you were only allowed to listen to the news at dinner, and you hear about Beverly Wallace, who had been abused by her husband.
That's correct.
Who had hired somebody. Now, this is something that, and we talked a little bit about this before, it's been educated for many years. 16-year-olds are not mature. They look like they're 26 years old. The guys...
I didn't look 26. No. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. I wasn't allowed... Very strict, my father was.
But the point is that you are 16 years old. Yep. Your brain is not fully developed. And guys, do not get offended. No. Even takes less, more time for them to reach that point. Maturity and just the development of the brain. So here you are. You hear this. You're in homeroom and you mention to somebody...
I kept thinking about it all night.
Yeah.
And thinking, wow, that would be my answer if I could. I just wanted him to stop. I didn't think about death. I didn't think about any consequences. I just wanted it to stop.
He just wanted to stop. And the other thing that he did, which was very upsetting, is that you were losing a lot of weight. People are asking you, are you okay? And one of the reasons is because he made a comment about your chest. And he's hit you there because you were getting too thin, and he made some derogatory, really horrible comments. And you're thinking, if I can keep losing weight, that'll repel him and stop him. Yeah. But instead he gets abusive. So all this hits. You hear about this at the dinner table. You're not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to look at the TV. And you mention this to a classmate in homeroom, Sean Pika, is it pronounced? Yes. Who sits in front of you. And you said, would anybody...
I said, who would be crazy enough to hire somebody, who would be crazy enough to, kill somebody for hire or something like that?
And he said he would.
Yeah. If the money was right.
If the money were right. I don't even know if you guys even expected this to ever even happen.
Gail, if he would have said 50,000, 100,000.
Right. Never. It wouldn't happen.
He said $1,000. Wouldn't you save yourself and your sister, your loved one, your child? She wasn't even considered my sister. She was like my daughter.
She was like your baby. You were raising her. You were bathing her, cleaning, cooking.
Desperate. I'm like $1,000 for him to just stop and go away. That's what I thought.
And you didn't think about the next day or the day after.
No.
And it happens. It happens.
When she told me that she had talked to somebody, and I said, a 16-year-old, I laughed at her. I thought it was a joke. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, this is...
He's really going to kill your father. Okay, so if that's what you want to believe, then good. Believe it.
Yeah. Because it didn't happen for so long.
Right. It didn't make any...
I never thought he was going to do it.
Well, let's also...
But I kept dreaming about it. I have to be honest with you. I wanted it just to stop. And, when I talked to Rob about it, he's like, kept telling me that maybe, he didn't think he was going to do it, but kind of still reassuring me. But you know what? Maybe it might happen. Maybe, just maybe.
He's trying to make you feel better.
Right.
You're caught. You're the son of a police officer. You go to your father, and he's got to report it. You promised Cheryl, nobody else will know about this. You're trying to be the man, take over. Right. This is a very, very tough situation.
He's trying to appease you. Years old.
Yeah, he's trying to help you.
Right.
You're not fully mature. And I'm just saying that.
No, it's the truth.
This is where
as
you're
an adult,
caught.
if somebody came to me now and said that was happening to them, I don't know what my response would be. I can't imagine me, telling a 17-year-old, it's just... Well,
turns out that Sean does shoot him 5 times. Sean does go to jail. He has served 16 years. From what I understand, if it is correct, he's helping people read in prison. And he did do it. The court did believe you. The judge believed you. But I think they had to make somewhat of an example.
Well,
go ahead.
They did make an example because they had to prove that you just can't go and hire somebody to kill somebody that's hurting you, which I understand. But And the same token, I have some days, because I have bad days and good days.
Right.
I say to myself, well, why doesn't that judge say, well, maybe that sets an example for the abuser, that
To
maybe
never
they
do
won't
it.
do it and they won't get shot.
I do
But,
understand that.
you know, I know it was not the right thing to do. You know, I really know it wasn't the right thing. But also, I just want to put out there that I got 3.5 months because the judge believed me. Rob just got probation because the judge
Right.
believed us.
Yes.
And Sean got the 16 years because he did not know about the abuse.
Right.
When I asked him to do that for hire,
It was the money, is what you're saying.
he didn't ask me why.
Right.
He just said he would do it, and eventually he did it. I don't know why he did it, but it wasn't because he knew about the
I
abuse.
see. I see. Now, you went to jail. They can't put you in with hardened criminals. You go all the time with your
Every
brother
day.
James.
Right.
Every day you write letters. You receive letters from so many people who are asking you for advice.
Yes.
And who are supporting you.
Yes.
But there were also, when you got out, people from Sean's friends. Windows broken, threats.
They were angry that I
They
didn't
were
get as
angry.
much time as him.
Right.
And they felt like he did something to help me.
The media
that's what they-
all over you.
Yeah.
I am so happy that you guys did get married.
They were at our wedding
Your
day.
in-laws were
Yes.
fabulous.
Oh,
Could you
my
have
God.
asked for better in-laws?
They weren't my in-laws.
They were
my
your
parents.
parents.
They were my parents.
I got very emotional when I heard that you said that. Unbelievable. You have two beautiful children. I mean, one daughter's getting married. How
Yes.
exciting is
Yes.
this?
2 weeks ago, we got the great news.
It's thrilling. You're going to go through all this. You also had a beautiful wedding.
I
Your
did.
brother got you the
Yeah.
gown.
My brother walked me down the aisle and got
And
me
your
a ring.
sister came to live with you. Okay?
Yep.
All right.
She came to live with me when I had my older daughter Samantha, which is the one that's getting married.
Oh, this is so exciting. However, life can turn on a dime. To be continued. Rob was there for you in so many ways. What does he mean to you?
Oof, that's a hard question. I don't even think I could put that in words, to be honest with you. He is my rock, my soulmate. He's my everything. I wouldn't be here without him. Put it that way.
And guess what? He wouldn't be here without you.
Well, that was only a little bit of how I could pay him back. I mean, don't forget, he has been with me since I'm 15, and just
Right.
talk about me being abused. This poor man.
Well, let's tell this story, because in 2012, you're an oncological nurse, and you end up having a massive heart attack. And if not for Cheryl, we wouldn't be here right now talking. So tell us a little bit about the symptoms and help the audience, because somebody out there could be having symptoms and not even know it.
I was 44 at the time, and I was experiencing chest pains, and they started to travel down my left arm. And, you know, I had gone to school 20 years earlier, 20-something years earlier, and learned about the heart. But that's not my specialty. My specialty is oncology. So one of my friends had asked me to play football again with him, and I knew I was having these pains, so I said, you know, let me go to the doctor and get them checked out. So I went to my primary, and they sent me to a cardiologist right away. So I went to the cardiologist and explained to him what was going on. And I guess maybe because of my age or how good I looked, he kind of blew me off and did not take me seriously. The pains, you know, worsened. And I had gone back to him 2 weeks prior to my heart attack and told him I thought something was really wrong. And again, he actually laughed at me and said, come on, it's anxiety. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really an anxious person. No, come back in 3 weeks and we'll do a blood pressure on you. And I didn't make 3 weeks. It was a little over 2 weeks later, I had a massive heart attack, and I died on Cheryl's birthday.
You actually were not breathing for 43 minutes.
43 minutes. And from what I was told, because I wasn't breathing, was that after a little over a half hour, which is standard time, the doctor came out to pronounce me. And I guess Cheryl could take over from there. And
Oh, that was a bad day. But it was a good day, too.
It was a good day.
It was a good day.
It was
That's
a
what I
good
try
day
to-
because you saved his life.
Well, you know, all my life I was taught as a child that children should be seen and not heard, that you respect your authority, that you don't question it.
Right.
And, you know, being married young at just turned 19, I've been with Rob for a long time at that point. And he always was my biggest, cheerleader for me, and always tried to protect me and take care of me and be there for me. And as much as I was like a mama bear to my kids, like I didn't really ever speak up. So he always did it for me, which I was happy about that, because that's what I was used to, just being quiet. And that day he wasn't there to do that. And so when the doctor came out, what I normally would have done was, you don't question authority, would have just been like, okay, and fell on the floor. But something inside me said there was no way that this man would leave me. We need him too much. He's been there for everything. And there's no way that he's going without me. So I said to the doctor, absolutely not. Are you crazy? I said, no. At first, we were big Grey's Anatomy fans, and I said, can't you just cut him open and pump the heart yourself?
Right.
And he's like, we don't do that in this hospital. I'm like, well, what kind of hospital is this that you don't try to save a life? And I just kept badgering him and just saying, please, he's 44 years old. Look, these are his 2 kids next to me. And thank God that they were not busy. And they said, well, doctor said I could only give him 10 more minutes. He said, after 10 more minutes, I'm sorry, we're going to have to let him go. And so he went back in there, and my children followed the doctor in there. And I was right outside the curtain, and they were cheering him and begging him, Dad, please don't leave us. It was heartbreaking. And they came out, and there's a digital clock right outside his curtain, and there was 8 minutes past. There was only 2 minutes left.
Oh my God.
I was praying to everybody I knew in my head, even my father, who I've never asked anything from. And I said to him, Dad, if you're really sorry for what you have done to me, you will bring Rob back. And all of a sudden I heard all this cheering.
Wow.
I'm like, what are they clapping about in there? And the doctor came
that.
running
Came
out.
Oh,
And he said, Mrs. Cuccio, it's a miracle.
wow.
It's a miracle.
Look at that.
He has a pulse.
That is amazing.
And it was a fight. I mean, that wasn't the first time he crashed, and they had to, revive him, and it was a nightmare
Code
for
Blue
Code
and-
Blue like 3 or 4 times, and
And then Cheryl, didn't they also freeze him
yes,
for, what was it, 24 hours?
and then
And then
defrost
12
for
hours
yeah.
to save the brain and to
Right.
save your different
Did a
parts
great
of the
job.
body.
All the
They did a great
they
job.
That's
transferred.
amazing.
They transferred him to Stony Brook. They would not allow me to go in the ambulance with him.
Right.
And then the doctors, they were awesome. They were wonderful. They froze his organs so that they wouldn't have to work so hard,
Jeez.
so they could try to get him back.
You said at one point there were 97 bottles you counted of propofol. Is that how you pronounce
Yes,
it?
propofol.
That was what Michael Jackson.
They called
I
it the
think.
Jackson juice.
Yeah, he died. He died from
Oh,
that.
I didn't leave his bedside, so every time they put one up, I'd be like,
You're like,
15,
oh God.
19.
Yeah, he was there. You were there for 25 days, but 19 put into an induced coma. But here's my question: maybe somebody can explain to me. You're having a HIDA is a scan.
Correct.
It's like being in a tunnel, being closed in, and suddenly they take this juice away.
It
You
wore off.
It wore
It
off.
wears off after a certain period of time, and
then
then
you
you just wake
put
right
another
back
bottle
up.
in.
But they didn't give you another bottle, and you
'Cause I was-
awaken. I
With a trach, he couldn't speak.
with a check, so we can't tell
he was
anybody.
squeezed in this tube.
Oh my God!
Didn't know where he
Rob.
was.
I still
Oh
have
my
that
God.
nightmare.
He does.
You still
yeah,
suffer from
sometimes
that.
He
she'll-
has PS.
Yeah,
PTSD,
understandable.
yeah, no,
but
sure.
but who saved you there again? What
She
happened?
was there.
You saw him.
Yeah.
And you
No,
said-
no, it was
No?
it was
What-
no. What
how did it
happened
happen?
was I wake up and I have a cover over my head.
Oh my God!
I remember going to sleep that night. I
Oh,
don't know that
you
it's
don't
the
even know
middle of
what's
June.
happening.
Right, I don't know
Right,
it's the
right.
middle of
It
June.
was May, and that's June.
And I looked down and I saw my feet
Wow.
and my arms were on my side. And it was funny because I looked over my shoulder and I saw somebody I had worked in a hospital with, a respiratory therapist. And
Oh,
so,
my
well,
God.
what is he doing in my bedroom? What's that?
God.
And I remember trying to talk to him, and nothing came out. And I hear the boop, boop with the machine and the respirator.
Started
And I'm
flailing
like,
in the
what
machine.
You start, yeah,
So
you
I remember
get
getting my
out.
arm up, and I was on dialysis
Yeah.
at the time,
Oh,
and I hit my
jeez.
catheter, and I thought it was a bug, so I started freaking on that. And I pointed at him, and I guess he told Cheryl
Told you.
that I was awake.
Okay.
And you know,
Oh,
I was really
I'm like, get him out, get him out.
Get
'Cause
him
there was
out.
blood everywhere. There was
Yeah,
everywhere.
you know.
God.
And the look on his face,
Ugh.
he was so scared.
And then she came down, and I was, you know, like I said, it was, you know, I didn't see her, and she was over me, and it was like I said, it was like an angel. And, you know, I remember her asking me, are you okay? And I remember shaking my head no, because at
No.
this point I wasn't okay.
No. And you were lucid enough to understand.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, they
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know if what damage has
Right,
been
They told
they
me
done.
he
were
was going to be
telling me-
mentally retarded.
Well, anoxia could
yeah,
set in.
they told me, you know, don't ever expect him to be the way he was, you know. And
Well,
I said,
you proved that wrong.
Oh, that I
You're a
did.
tough guy.
Oh, that I did.
It's
As
tough.
soon as I woke up, I started pulling my tubes. I got to
So
go
let
home.
me ask you this. You've survived all this. What is your purpose? We all want to know our purpose in life. And I'm not talking about the modeling. I'm not talking about talk
Right.
show hosts, teaching. What's your purpose? What do you think?
I feel my
idea?
purpose on this earth is to care for other people, which is
You're a
why I
caretaker.
picked nursing as my
Nursing.
field.
Right.
Which, you know, most of my friends would be like, I can't believe you're a nurse, because, you know, I came from construction, you know, and
he's always had the underdog.
I've always,
Yeah,
you know, and I just feel that that's
How has this impacted your career, your job as a nurse? Has it made you more empathetic?
oh, absolutely.
It has
Let me
changed.
just say he was a
Absolutely.
horrible patient. Nurses are the
Yes.
worst
They are
patients.
always doctors and nurses are
Yes.
the
I
worst.
was not a good patient, no.
And you were a
know,
little
looking
tough when
back,
you came out,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I wanted,
You
I
set
wanted
him
out.
straight.
They called me the bulldog
Right.
because I was tough on the nurses and the doctors as well.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
which
'cause I'm
somebody
taught-
that never
yes.
spoke up for.
That's, yeah, it doesn't
You
sound
know,
like you.
I
Saved
just
me in
wanted to
every
wake
way.
him up and be like, tell me what to do, and then go back to sleep. But that didn't obviously work.
And it was horrible. You came back, your dog died, on your mom passes,
I still,
and you're
yeah.
going to trial for this doctor, and unbelievable. And you have to go into court. They're trying to see if you're a credible witness, and
Right.
you have
Right, they said that I wasn't because I was arrested and I had a felon, and they were trying to, you know, because anything that he couldn't really speak for himself until after the heart attack, before and then after, but I had to tell everything in between, and they didn't want the jury to hear that part, so they tried to, again, discredit me. My whole life, people have tried to discredit
weren't listening
when I'm
to you
trying
for
to
it. Yeah.
speak up.
Yeah,
I'm
they
trying to
weren't
speak
listening.
up and do the right thing, and all we want people to know is, if you're unhappy with what your doctor said, get a second opinion.
Get a second
Please,
opinion.
go,
no matter
go
if you're
back.
a doctor,
Definitely.
a nurse, you think you know, you think you know,
Right,
when you
right.
know.
Always get
But
a
the thing
second.
was, he trusted this doctor, and it's the same thing. I trusted my father, and it's like you get caught in this trust, and then you get let
There
down.
are good people out there. Do you remember in the hospital you had nurses that
Oh,
couldn't do enough?
phenomenal.
You had
Yes.
doctors. You had friends.
my younger daughter's going to med school, and
Yes.
she decided she wanted to be a doctor, and she will be a good doctor.
She's going to be a good
because
doctor.
she learned from what all the wrong.
What did
things.
you learn about yourself after your husband's
Well,
experience?
that's why we decided to write the book, Gail, because after all that happened and I finally was able to speak up for myself, I knew that I had the strength in me to do this, because now I could talk to
beautiful.
other people.
That is just beautiful.
Yep.
Every individual matters. Every individual has a role to play. Every individual makes a difference. You helped Cheryl. Cheryl helped Rob. And the two of them are going to help you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Cuccio. I am one of the authors for Incest, Murder, and a Miracle. This book is about a true story, and my story was just on the preceding show with Make a Difference with Gail. I would like to just tell you that if anybody that is being abused, or you know of being abused or were abused, and you want to speak to me, You can get in touch with me at Cheryl Cuccio, author@gmail.com, and I would love to talk to you because I just want to let you know you are not alone.